All right. Yvette, what do you feel about men?
That caught me off guard. What do I feel about men? I feel deeply respectful of men. And there is a part of me that likes to honor men and support and embrace their wildness and their strength and their tenderness all at the same time. And there is a part of me that feels deeply driven to protect their right and their freedom to be in their masculine, even if it's not understood by women, because it's necessary. It keeps the balance. 100%.
Is that your answer?
It is.
Are those men who you talk about in your mind or in the reality?
In my mind, they have always been. And in my reality, they now can be.
Thus far, I follow what you say. What have changed?
My relationship with myself. To be able to be that. To be able to see a man and not fear him. Fear a man for being wild or being unpredictable or being in a natural state, in a natural healthy state. And I think in order for a woman to accept that, she needs to be in the same natural healthy state herself and to understand why there is a difference between men and women, why there are certain things that men need to do and need to be, and certain things that women need to do and need to be, and that it's okay. There's nothing taking away from anything if you're in a healthy state and you understand the way that it's meant to be.
Thank you. Great. Okay, let's take another one. What do you think about men getting old?
I think it very similar to women. There is a certain strength that shifts from a physical strength to an internal strength. It's a knowing. I think when a man ages in a healthy state, He is the man that knows how to lead without force, because there is a respect that is just naturally commanded because of the life experience. I think a man aging in a healthy state, he carries wisdom and a strength that requires nothing. It's whole, it's complete, it's done a circle. A man that ages in a healthy state has had his fair share of battles, wins and losses, finds his center point, has learned to be the example and not force the opinion. Not only respects himself, but can respect the aging woman as well. Because there's wisdom and there's grace and there's calmness. There's a calmness in a healthy aging man. They have learned how to harness that energy, that natural raw energy that they possess. And I think they fall into the cycles, and they have been weathered and not worn.
Weathered, not worn.
When they're in a healthy state. Yeah. A man that is weathered and not worn doesn't hold the burden of anything.
Is this state you're talking about a decision of a man? Can it be a decision?
To be in a healthy state? No, I think it's a becoming. I don't know that it's a decision.
What's the difference?
I think we can all make a decision, but we don't necessarily follow it through or achieve it.
All right, let's not play a game. If the decision is made, what does it need to be followed? Like what it takes to follow that decision?
I think it takes a deep understanding of themselves to be able to look in the mirror or have a mirror reflected back, and there not be anything that they're not willing to acknowledge, to own, to share the weight of, to accept.
So basically what you're saying could be that if the man, aging man, is not in healthy state, reached that yet, they cannot follow yet that decision.
Correct.
Alright. Thank you. You want to add something?
No.
Alright. You want to say something to women who live with aging men?
Yes. When an aging woman lives with an aging man, there is, or there ought to be, a deep respect that it's almost like seeing a synchronistic dance. It's an ebb and flow. It doesn't require effort. It doesn't require an exertion of energy. There is just a deep respect and a deep understanding of what drives each, the man and the woman. And there is no effort required. It's an all-encompassing circle, that has no rough edges, because all of those rough edges get worn and they get shaped over the years, in the younger years, when there's lots of energy and the learning. There is something quite beautiful about an aging man and woman who can walk in balance and in harmony and in deep understanding of what the other is, the nature of the other, and an acceptance of that. There's no desire to change, to mold, to push, to pull. It just is an understanding, which I think is an extremely liberating and powerful expression of two people.
You said about you talked to elderly women who live with aging men.
Mm-hmm.
What about what would you like to say to younger women, daughters, who live with older men? In that regard,
Mm-hmm.
that's not the same, I presume.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, I don't think it is the same at all. For younger women, in the case of a daughter living with an older man, I say to the younger women, observe, don't fear. Watch that older man in a natural state and understand that a woman's role is not to move the course of a man away from his natural state, but rather to support that. Don't take from anything. Just observe and allow the man to be, because you will probably find, if you can do that, what you will get in return is like a fierce strength, but a gentle love as well, that can be in balance in the one.
Great words. Thank you. There's a question. What would you say, or let's say, what would you advise yourself not to say ever to a man? Like what you have said, what women happen to say to men, what is the do not never say thing for you, in your experience? I'm not saying that you have said that, but you know what I mean.
My position on that is, I think if you can approach a man with the utmost respect, then there should be nothing that you can't say, because it's said respectfully. Because when you say something respectfully, it takes out accusations, nagging, judgment. It takes out all of the negative. And it is just simply respectfully conversing. Yeah.
I don't know where these questions come from, and I don't care that much, but this is funny question. Can a man, do anything in their life where they do not have respect towards whatever they are doing? And it's all right, and it's good.
To not have respect, you mean?
Yeah. Is there any action doing what man could do without respect towards, and then it's still all right in the world?
The only thing that comes to mind is anything that is absolutely a decision to survive.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Then I believe respect is not an issue. Survival is the most primal instinct in any human.
And I feel that you would say that that's not appropriate for a woman even then, but more like in those situations to lean and let man do that.
Absolutely, because
Yes.
that's what they're made for. That's what they're built for. A woman is not built to make a survival decision the same as a man, because it's not built in her for that. That is not her role. She could definitely make a survival decision for her child 100%, but I think that would probably be the only case. And then there are things that men can do that women can't, and vice versa. That's why we're built the way we're built. A man is designed to kill, to protect, to survive. And he should be left to make those decisions without the interference of a woman. Because a woman does not have the same thinking, the same drive as a man. So therefore it's like trying to put a square peg in a round hole. It'll just probably not end well. Because if a woman is influencing a man's decision in a survival situation, she's actually suppressing his natural drive, and things will go astray very quickly, because he doesn't have the freedom to act and make a decision in a primal mode. I would imagine it would maybe even come down to him second guessing, which would be frightfully dangerous.
In that regard, what are the women's similar grades? I don't know if my English is, but similar things in that regard. As you told, that man have. Interestingly, you said kill first, I guess. So, yeah. What are women's, in your experience?
Women's natural primal drives?
Yes, right. Thank you.
It's to nurture.
The opposite, I guess.
Yeah, it's to create.
The opposite, I guess. Yeah. All right.
You know, a man clears a space for a woman to create and nurture by taking away the threat and by giving stability and safety. A woman can't be in her full flourish if she does not feel safe and secure.
Thank you. Let's take this even when this is tough. How do you see personally? What can you say about it? About men and women together, I mean humans in general, when they think of children in this, let's say, situation where the world, Western world mostly is, we don't know much, I guess, about the other worlds here, but Western world, in Western cultures, what would you say to people thinking things regarding children? Is it good or beneficial for the society to differentiate own children, own offspring from other children in life, in general? Or would you like to say anything about that?
Just say that to me again. Differentiate.
Own offspring from other children of the world.
So treating your own children differently to other children?
Not necessarily about treating, but when taught about things regarding children, should there be? Is it beneficial for the societies to differentiate own offspring from other children in life?
No.
That was fast. Thank you for that answer. Why? Can you?
Because humans are communal creatures. They are not segregated. If parents, adults are differentiating between children, we have already created division. Living in a communal state where we interact with others, there must be some form of an unflinching standard for all humans, and it starts with children. If we are differentiating between children, we are creating a hierarchy system for starters. We are creating an environment to already begin to overdevelop the ego. Children do not learn to support one another if there is differences, because you have the hierarchy system. Now, I understand that if you have more than a few people, you will have a hierarchy. But if we go inflating that from the very beginning, it will get out of hand. And this is why we have underprivileged or overprivileged humans in our society. Because everything starts with the family. Regardless, it is the first introduction to power, to structure, to rules, to regulations, morality. It all starts with the family before anybody else can guide that child. So no, I don't believe we should be differentiating between children. It's not beneficial. And
yeah. Want to say anything?
Well, I was just going to say that doesn't mean that you can't develop strengths. That's important. To develop strengths, to identify a weakness that needs developing. Those things are not the same as differentiating. And that's important. A child needs to learn their strengths, to be recognized for their strengths, to develop their strengths, to become stronger. And we need leaders, and we need decision makers, and we need to be able to coexist with other humans. And we can do that when we can recognize our strengths and recognize the strengths in others. And I think when we can get to that point, there's less leaning on a hierarchy. We don't need to go looking for a leader because the leader is there, developed and ready to go. And if you know that leadership is not your strength, you have the gumption and the courage to step aside and allow that person to lead in full strength and trust their decisions. And you come in on your strengths. And that's important. Because when we know our strengths, we know our position, we know our capabilities. And we know how to lock in with other people in a harmonious way, because there is a less inclination to fight for dominance and control and notoriety. And it gives great environment for flow.
For the, let's say, European people from Australian language, what is gumption meaning?
Gumption is like having a backbone.
Right,
Yeah.
right. That
having the grit.
It's rarely used word in here in Europe, so thank you. Great. Now, there's an extra question coming, so let's take that and let's see how this goes.
Okay.
This is from my personal experience. I've been put in position where I'm asked multiple occasions, multiple ways, not strictly asked, but kind of like suggested that men of my age and women of even younger age, but those of us people who are getting older, to older age, the experience, whatever, let's say over 55 years old men and over 45 years old women, regarding depending on a little bit of experience. If one is experienced in some area of life, that would be the thing we are talking about here. Asked to or suggested to spread that knowledge to younger people, because as we know, even in non-Western cultures, it is becoming kind of like it's becoming a situation where elder people are not there for younger people, and that's also it comes very easily very close to taboo questions, taboo topics. Who knows why? But that's something I guess you can address to clearly. So how would you, but the question is, how would you form this question, what I just explained here, because this is not a clear question. How would you question this, and then how would you answer to that?
I believe the question could be, how does an older man give guidance to a younger woman?
Well, that's the closest of the taboo subjects, but it's also the other way around these days. I heard about women and younger men, older women and younger men. But the point is, there's this knowledge, this experience that is lacking from the younger. And like, what question and what answer could give anything to people in this topic? That's the question. Without it being tangled in taboos, which are nonsense actually.
If a situation presents itself where an older man could guide, help, show a younger woman some form of life experience, that is definitely a possibility. But I think it's a situation that requires very clear and defined boundaries. And if I take that one step further, if we are in a society where older men are teaching younger women, then women have failed women.
That's what was found there. What about boys, younger men and older men situation? We are living in 2025, so we do not segregate. There are taboos in there as much as the other. So situation. So how can we form this question and answer to that? So it's beneficial for the situation, because situation, everyone knows this situation. Younger people, they are quite lost these days, especially in Western culture, but also otherwise.
So how can older men help younger men?
How can older people getting older, having experience, how can they help younger people, regardless, is basically the what is looked upon here. But how to form this question so it's not triggery, so it's not connected to taboo, so it's not like we actually here did, went to taboos right away. That's how to convey that and go to the point, the solution. That's an extra question. This is quite difficult.
Perhaps the question could require a little bit of molding, but the thing that comes straight to my mind is, how can the elderly impart their knowledge to the younger successfully? And that's a multi-angled question, because it comes back to the same thing that I constantly talk about, and that is respect. If the elderly respects the position, the energy, the mentality of the young, without trying to make them a replica of themselves, allow them to keep their individuality and understand that there's 1, 2, 3 generations difference. Times change, cycles move. An 18-year-old will not have the life experience, the grace, or the emotional intelligence of someone who's 70 years old. Then it requires the reverse, the young, to respect that the elderly have walked the path, made the mistakes, fallen on their own sword probably more than once, and to understand that they hold the wisdom and the knowledge of a life of experience. And it's not that the young need to live the same as the elderly, but it's more about observing and acknowledging what can be gathered along the path to those years to become an elderly person, someone in 60s, 70s, 80s, whatever it may be. To me, it's more about discovering the self. This is what I see in a natural cycle that the aged people have, that the younger people can learn from. What your role is in society as a man or as a woman. How you show respect. How you work alongside your fellow man in a harmonious way. How you stretch yourself and those around you to be a better version of yourself without creating chaos. How to have the strength to pull the hammer down when it's necessary. A bit like nature, a bit like Mother Nature. When there's an imbalance, she acts swiftly and without remorse. And that it too is required within society. That is required for the elderly, for the aged, for the older people to pull the hammer down when it's necessary. Because if we don't do that, we don't have balance and we don't have harmony. People don't know their position, their role, their capability, their strengths, their weaknesses, what it is they're meant to do. It's just chaos. It's everyone just stumbling over the other person with not a care. And then we lose our way and we have no function. We don't see our purpose. So I believe when we live in a society, the most valued function to keep coherence is respect. In what you say, in what you do, in how you move, in how you treat others, how you treat nature, how you treat yourself. If you start with respect, you can add to it. If you start with respect, you can be humble. If you start with respect, you can put your foot down when it's necessary. Because you're respectful to all. You're keeping the equilibrium. You're keeping people in their lane, so to speak. We're not all just running over the next person just because. And these things are valuable when you're talking about a society. You see it in the animal kingdom. Animals that move in flocks or packs. There is a hammer pulled down. The challenge is going to be there. A young man will challenge an older man, of course. Of course. It's up to the older man to pull the hammer down if it's necessary. To give him enough rope to move around when it's needed. Let him stretch himself out and see what he's got. Let him show you that he has the strength to challenge and how far he can take that. And when he pulls himself out of line, drop the hammer and put him back in. And then he can go inward a bit more and keep learning about himself and the environment around him and the people around him and what's valuable and what's important.
We knew that there would be balance to this, through this question. Thank you.
Thank you.